Carlos Walker. This is Art and Hustle, Black Authors Matter, and today we're here with Dr. Frederick Douglass Burton. Peace and blessings, sir. How you doing?
Peace and blessings to you too, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey, it is an honor. If you will, share with people who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a medical physician. I went to medical school, went to Meharry Medical College. For those who don't know, is a historically black medical school founded in 1876 in Nashville, Tennessee. It's across the street from Fisk University. The street that separates Fisk from Meharry is named after my professor, cardiologist David B. Todd Boulevard.
Mm.
He was a good brother at Meharry. Used to teach, and I developed a fondness for him. Anyway, I grew up in South Philadelphia. I went to the public school system here in Philadelphia back in the 1950s and 60s. And during the height of the Vietnam War, I finished high school in 1966. I went in the military in 1967. Basically, an attempt to try to stay out of Vietnam, believe it or not, because I had a professor in high school, Vincent J. Solange, who explained the true nature of what Vietnam and the Kennedy assassination was really all about. It was a big money grab, military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower warned Kennedy before he got in office. This is all about the military-industrial complex. So my friends who could afford to go to school got deferments from college, but my parents couldn't afford to send me to college full-time. So I decided to join the Air Force because, at the height of the Vietnam War in 1967, when I went in, 2.5% of the military came from Philadelphia.
Mm.
Now think about that. 2.5% came from one town.
Mm.
And that's because Philadelphia had a gang war culture back in those days, pre-Crips and Bloods, way back before that. But bottom line is, that's why they developed a culture of taking these young black boys off the streets of Philadelphia and putting them in a place where they could fight for the government. So anyway, I joined the Air Force with the intent of going into computers. I thought data processing was the up-and-coming thing of those days, so I was going to get ahead of it and figure I'd get into the field. But by the time I got in, which took me 6 months to get into the Air Force, that school was closed, and they said, well, Air Force needs come first. They need air policemen and medics. Fortunately for me, they said, you're going to be a medic. So that's what got me into the medical field. And not having any particular specialty, I didn't want to specialize in a particular area like surgery tech or x-ray tech or something like that. So I was a general medic, and I rotated through the entire hospital, learned how to do a little bit of everything, give shots, help deliver babies, drive ambulances, put on casts, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I had seen enough in those 3.5 years in the Air Force to really satisfy my inquisitive nature about things. So when I got out of the military, I was thinking about going to law school. But when I went to an employment agency, then of course they found me a job working in the hospital. So I went to work at St. Joe's Hospital as an orderly, and was not really impressed with medicine because my father had been a very sick guy. When I was in high school, my father got pancreatic cancer, and then diabetes and heart disease. And so I used to call my father the walking textbook of internal medicine because he had everything. But he kept living somehow. My father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in October 1964. He died of a heart attack in July 1982. So, yeah, I know. It's interesting. And he had cancer another time. People say, well, maybe he didn't really have cancer. He was in the hospital 9 months, had 2 surgeries, 2 different hospitals, 2 different surgeons. So, yeah, he had cancer. But somehow that brother kept living.
Only God.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was amazing. And so I was in the military, I'm always looking for things to help my dad. I didn't see anything. So when I got out of the military, I wasn't impressed with medicine, but got a job working in the hospital. Still not seeing anything that impressed me about healthcare. But I got out of the military in 1971. 1972, I'm in college, at community college in Philadelphia, downtown Philadelphia, majoring in urban affairs. And my intent majoring in urban affairs was this. Everywhere I'd been, black people seemed to be in the jams. I decided I want to study the cities since black people live in the city. So I studied the cities, and I found out what's wrong with black people. So anyway, while I was at community college, one day a brother came into the lobby of community college, whom I had been in the high school with, and we were musicians together. He played trumpet, I played keyboard. We had a little combo in high school, and we hadn't seen each other since high school, and so we embraced each other, of course, and asked catching up on things. And we realized we weren't playing our instruments very much. We decided to get together and play our instruments. So our schedules were free on Tuesday mornings. So we got together at my apartment in West Philadelphia on first Tuesday morning. This is like 1972. And we played for about 3 hours, just played. No talking, just played. The second Tuesday we got together, we talked, and he introduced me to alternative medicine. And that became my epiphany because I had never heard anything about alternative medicine. I've been in the medicine field now for about 4 or 5 years. Nobody talked to me about diet or herbs or any nutritional therapies or any of that. So I was kind of fascinated by that because it was the first time anybody ever put the idea in my head that I could avoid my father's many medical issues by changing my lifestyle and my diet. And so he said to me that day, he said, you should be a doctor. And I thought he was out of his mind because, you know, I'd worked with all these doctors and what I'd heard about what it took to be a doctor, that wasn't me, you know. But I said, you know, I'm interested in alternative medicine, though. This is interesting. Let me do some research into that. So I started to do the research on the side while I was taking classes in college. I transferred to Temple University, whole deal. And after 2 years of research in alternative medicine, I realized the only thing I could do was be a doctor. Nothing was more interesting than that. And I wanted to be an alternative doc, although I didn't know any. I said, I got to be an alternative doctor. So I'd been with enough physicians to know I was as intelligent as they were. And so I decided one day in 1974, I'd go down to Temple Medical School and talk to the medical students and to see what it took to go to medical school. Because here I was a junior in college, getting ready to go to my senior year. I'd never taken a science course. So I thought I better get started with my sciences. So anyway, I went down to the school and I talked to the students and they said, okay, it takes 2 things to go to med school. I said, what's that? They said, 1, better than average intelligence. I said, okay, check. Got that.
Already got that.
Yeah. Next, it takes 4 to 6 hours a day of study every day, including Saturday and Sunday. I said, oh, okay. I thought about it. I said, you know, I think I could do that. Because instead of looking at it as 4 to 6 hours, I looked at it as quarter of the day. And it left me 3/4 of the day to do other things. So I said, I could do that. And to make a long story short, from that time in March of 72 to November 75, I busted my tail and I got accepted to med school at Meharry Medical College, Nashville, Tennessee. So in 1976, I went down, and one thing I failed to mention, I went to John Bartram High School in Philadelphia, and the reason why I went there was because a man in my neighborhood turned me around because I was going to go to South Philadelphia High School instead of Bartram, and he heard about that, came around looking for me because he was a good friend of an older friend of mine on the street. This older friend of mine, Gerald, my father worked in World War II, down at the Navy Yard in South Philadelphia, ended up living on the same street. They both had children who became friends with each other. And his oldest son was a good friend of Earl Monroe's, Earl of Pearl Monroe. I don't know if you ever heard of Earl of Pearl.
Boxer, right?
No, basketball, brother. Come on.
Okay. No, I remember. Yeah. I heard the name. I'm trying to figure out where I heard the name from, but go ahead.
Considered one of the top 50 ever played the game. Well, anyway, he was a star at Winston-Salem back in the 60s. And he heard about me, right? And took the time to come around and find me and say, hey, man, where you going to high school? I said, I'm going to Southern. He said, hey, man, don't go to Southern. Go to Bartram. And I said, why should I go to Bartram instead of Southern? He said, if you go to Southern, you got to fight white boys and black boys. Now, see, back in those days, you had to consider, if you're going to leave a part of your neighborhood, you got to consider the safety factor where you're going to be. So he said, if you go to Bartram, you just have to deal with black people. I said, okay, I'll switch and go to Bartram. Well, it was at Bartram that I met the guy that told me to go to med school. So I tell people I blame Earl for me being a doctor. You know what I mean? And I appreciate him. I've been trying to thank him now for about 50 years. we never crossed the same circles. But anyway, I think he knows I appreciate it. Anyway, I got out of medical school in 1981. Now, in medical school at Meharry, it was interesting because at the end of my freshman year, an upperclassman walked up to me during lunchtime and said, hey, man, Burton, what you going to do? I said, what you mean, man? He said, the word is out on you. You're not one of us. What you going to do? And I thought that was interesting because it seems that the word got out that I was into alternative medicine and I'm going the traditional route of OBGYN or surgery or internal medicine. I said, yeah, I'm going to alternative medicine, man. He said, ain't no money in that. What you do? Well, he was right about ain't no money in it. That's true. Because I learned in medicine that if you help people, you don't make that much money. You want to make
No.
money in medicine, you got to do a bunch of unnecessary stuff. That's the way the system's designed. For instance, a person has gallstones. They come to me. I got a program for them. They'll pass the stones out in the toilet within 7 days, cost them less than $50. They go to the hospital, it's going to cost them $85,000. So you can see the math don't math that good there.
The math don't math good.
Math don't math good. So when you really do stuff to really, and see, the sad part is the number one person the person is conditioned to go seek advice from is a person who only knows about the surgery piece. He doesn't know about the real nutrition piece, the health piece, the piece that see, because here's the crux in the system. Doctors are trained by the medical system, by the drug industry and the insurance industry to prescribe drugs and surgery for problems. So they're trained that whenever they see a problem, they figure out a drug or surgical way to treat the problem.
Not to get to the root to take care of the problem.
Exactly. Here's the thing, though. Most people's health problems don't require a drug or surgery to fix. If you know what to do. But unfortunately, doctors aren't taught what to do. They're only taught drugs and surgery. So in all honesty, and to be fair to them, as my mother used to say, my mother has many wonderful sayings, they got it honest. They weren't trained to help people with health problems. They were trained to find a drug or surgical solution for every problem. So they're doing what they really feel is the best thing.
They're also doing what they're taught.
They're only doing what they're taught. And matter of fact, even if they know it's not the best thing, they're going to do it because they don't want to be considered different from their peers. See, it's a peer pressure thing.
Malpractice. They'll have to deal with all types of stuff like malpractice and stuff.
Now here's the thing people need to really appreciate. What is malpractice? You know what malpractice is?
I used to know exactly, but go ahead.
No, tell me what you think about it, because you probably got a similar concept to what most people who are listening in would have. Just give me what you think.
For me, it's not practicing what you are taught. It's you going against the format that has been put in front of you, going outside of that box.
That's right.
Going outside of that box, you're now not practicing what we gave you. So now,
that's right.
Look, you're a malpractice.
That's true. Here's the deal. You said it pretty much. It's not doing what everybody else do. See, if you got a stomach ache and the doctors in your neighborhood and your community are taught to punch you in the stomach if you got a stomach ache, and you go to a person like me and I don't punch you in the stomach, even if you get better, that's malpractice. Because it ain't what everybody else did. That's the problem. That's why one of the main reasons why doctors are afraid to do what I do, because they don't want to be labeled as a different, a quack. See, so, but the point is, as I told one of my classmates, this classmate that confronted me in 1977 during the spring of 77 when I was completing my freshman year, and he said, the word is out on you, you're not one of us. I said, well, I'm going to get my credentials and I'm going to go learn real medicine. And he said, well, you don't think what we're learning is real medicine? And I asked him, what have they cured lately? What happens if I get it or somebody I love gets it? What are we going to do? We're going to play with it or we're going to fix it? And see, I'm interested in fixing it. So I realized that if I'm going to pursue this line of thinking and looking like I look, I better have some credentials everybody knows and respects. So I decided to get the MD. And then I went out, we'll go out and pursue information from people who really knew how to help people. And it's been an interesting journey. And I chronicled it in my book. I was up with the book when we first met. The book details that road I went down and the people I met, and unbelievably brilliant people. It's been a great journey. And I've been imparting this information to different folks and teaching them how to do it and helping a lot of people. I saved a lot of people's lives with these concepts, especially people who are suffering from diseases like sarcoidosis. You're familiar with Bernie Mac, one of my favorite comedians of all time.
Rest in peace or rest in power. So before we go too far,
go ahead.
name the book, because that is the reason why we're here. We hear about your book
Okay.
and about your journey with this book, but I want to make sure that they get to see it and know that this is what this is for.
Okay, good. My mother, that was a Freudian slip. My wife has been on my back for decades. She said, Fred, you got to write a book.
I love your wife.
And then my patients also. So I said, I'm going to write the book. So I started writing it. But you guess, you know what I mean? You procrastinate, things get in the way. But then COVID happened.
And you had enough
COVID
time.
happened. I went from 5.5 days a week working to 3 half days. So I said, wait a minute, I got all this time. I got to finish this book. So this book, basically, How to Outlive Your Doctor Using Alternative Medicine, is a COVID book because I spent that time writing and getting this book together because I knew it wouldn't last forever, but I had a window to get this thing finished. And so every day I'd be writing, and I got it done. I started to use the same principles to write this book that I used getting through medical school. It's called
You got a quarter of a day.
Pardon me?
You got a quarter of a day.
That's right. Everyday mindfulness, brother. You got to do it every day. And you can get anything done, man. You take that attitude, And it worked out pretty well. And I've been getting excellent feedback, especially from my patients who've been reading it. I have a patient who lives in Bogota, Colombia, and she comes up every few years. And she came up last year, and she bought a copy of the book. And she went back home, and after she was back home for about 2 or 3 weeks, she called me. She said, Doc, reading this book is like talking to you. I love it. I said, good. So I wanted to make it so that the average person could get a lot from it. And what made me really feel good a few weeks ago, I was at a holiday function with my family, and my sister has a great grandson who's 9 years old. And he came up to me and said, Uncle Freddie, I finished reading your book. 9 years old. I said, great. I said, because you're the person I wrote this for. So it's been good. I'm very happy I got it done.
He about to be a genius because I'm pretty sure the language in this book is here.
Yeah, he's a smart little guy.
For even grown up. So for him to finish reading that book at 9 years old, I could just imagine when he turns in his 20s.
Yeah, imagine.
Yes.
I'm happy about that. A lot of people, it's helping a lot of people. And what's really interesting, I put in the back of the book a gentleman who his daughter they live in Maryland, Bowie, Maryland. She called me, I don't know if you ever heard of Pastor Gino Jennings.
Yes, I do. Yes, I have.
Pastor Gino Jennings is a good friend of mine and patient. And he invited me to give a talk at his church on July 29, 2017 at his main church here in Philadelphia at 5th and Lindley. And, he's got churches all over the world. But anyway, I gave a lecture at his main church on cancer because he was wanting to have me do a lecture to explain what cancer was because I told him, my patients know what cancer is. So I gave the lecture. I didn't know he was going to record it in high def and put it on YouTube. Anyway, people have been coming to me still from that lecture because you can see it. You go to D.R. Burton Truth of God broadcast and you can see the whole lectures. It turned out real well. I put together a PowerPoint presentation, but what people really appreciate was the question and answer because I do a pretty good question and answer. Most doctors are very leery of doing question and answers. As a matter of fact, if you listen to most doctors who do interviews on the radio, they rarely take question and answer because they don't want to look bad. And one thing to make you look bad is you ask a question you have no answer for. So I've been doing this for many, many years. All of the local personalities here in Philadelphia, radio personalities have had me on their shows, and we've had conversations and question and answers, and it's worked out real well. Rarely does somebody call and challenge me because most of the doctors around here, they hate me, but they fear me.
They respect you. That's what
we would say respect.
I like the reason why they respect you. They know you know what you know. And if they mess around and have to contend or debate or pick your mind, what they'll realize is that they're probably going to lose some money.
Exactly. Well, I've been doing this since the early 80s. So I've been experienced in a lot of things in this world. And I've seen a lot of people get better, a lot of people. And with all kinds of illness. Matter of fact, Bernie Mac, I assure you, would still be here had he known about me and come to me and do my program. Sarcoidosis is what killed Bernie Mac, killed Reggie White from the Philadelphia Eagles. That's one of the easiest disease processes to stop. I mean, it's just amazing how just you put people on the right thing, their body will start getting better.
Matter of fact, if you will, I know I actually heard you speak on it at a conference we was at. How did you learn how to cure that?
A very interesting story. There was a young lady from Delaware, and she was suffering from sarcoidosis. Now, sarcoid, for those people who don't know, is, believe it or not, and then your doctor's not going to, if you ask your doctor, he's not going to tell you what I'm saying. He probably say what I'm saying is wrong, but this is my opinion. You've heard of tuberculosis. Yeah. I think sarcoid is a distant cousin of tuberculosis. It's not contagious, but it has the tendency to affect the same tissues that TB affects. It likes the lung, the skin, and eye. So anyway, bottom line is this lady was suffering from sarcoid, and I did what I thought I could do with the knowledge I had in those days, the early 90s, but it wasn't doing well for her. So a couple of years go by, I hadn't seen her. And, you know, in this profession, if a person, you don't see her for a few years,
they're probably dead.
They're dead or what they call lost to follow-up. You don't know what happened to them. But on one particular day, she came to my office, and not for treatment, but just to tell me what happened to her, which I really appreciate because I would never have known she hadn't done this. Well, she came in looking like brand new money. And I said, wow, I thought you was gone. And she said, no, I'm doing great. I said, well, what'd you do? And she told me she found this protocol. And I said, well, show me what to do. So I wrote everything she did down, and I started to apply it. And every sarcoid patient started getting better. I didn't lose nobody. That's what was so wonderful. And most people don't know anything about sarcoid, but it has a tendency to affect Black people, particularly Black women. I don't know why that is. But fortunately for me, she shared that with me, and people have been getting benefit from it ever since. So that's how I came to know about that particular therapy. Now, what's interesting is I modified that therapy along with a couple other things to apply to cancer. And my cancer patients are now doing pretty well, which goes back to that lady from Maryland. She saw the video that I did at Pastor Geno Jennings Church in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. Called me up and said, my father's being discharged on January 21, which is 5 years ago now, being discharged with advanced liver cancer. He's being sent home on hospice care. Do you think you can help him? I said, well, I'll show him how to stop making cancer. Because what I teach my patients is cancer is something you make. So if you don't make it, you won't get it. So don't make it. So he went on the program, and I spoke to him last week. He's still here, 5 years. And what I thought was interesting about it is nobody from the University of Maryland, which is where he was being treated, where they sent him home to die, nobody's called me to ask me what I did for this guy, which is interesting, isn't it?
And they should be knocking on everybody should be knocking on your door.
Not interested.
At least working to figure out, what did you do?
Yeah.
And can you prove it?
Not interested. Matter of fact, I had a talk with his, he had to go to a rehab center to do some work because he had developed an infection. And I talked to the nutritionist there because I wanted to make sure he was going to go on this liver program I had to make sure that his liver stayed healthy and free of that infection. And she started to give me the standard rule, rap that, we have to put the team together and we'll review all of the things that you suggest and this. I said, wait a minute, who's the boss? I want to know who the boss is who makes the decision as to whether or not he takes, because, when you go to an institution, everything is funneled through them. If he's home, he just takes what I tell him. But now he's in an institution for a while. I want to get everything cleared to his people. And they kept giving me the line that, well, we got to have the team approve it and we got to look at the ingredients. I said, look. I said, you guys never called and asked me how he's here in the first place, what I've been doing. Y'all not interested. And, she took that as being offensive to her. She said I was being condescending. I said, well, I'm just saying, I've been doing this work now for over 40 years, right? I've had 3 doctors call and ask me what I did to make their patient better. Three
Mm.
doctors.
Three
And I've had
smart people.
thousands of patients, but I have
Three
three people.
smart people.
Yeah. And to me, it's not, it's something kind of unique to medicine. Now, I'll say it this way. I don't care what your profession is. If you have a particular issue that's really bugging most of the people in your profession, and somebody goes somewhere and gets some
Get
relief or
some
answer
help.
to that problem, you gotta want to know that.
Man, at least look, to be one who is a scientist,
Right.
what most scientists do is trial and error.
Right.
I try something, I assess it, I fix what I see that didn't work, and what happens when it works, I put that program into play.
Right.
They should be knocking at your door. Look, you should be flown everywhere for what you know.
Yeah, I would think. Hey, I shouldn't be struggling. Shouldn't be struggling, but
I hope you ain't struggling.
hey, brother,
Look,
well. See, here's the thing I've learned, brother. Like I say,
when
as
you're
one of
doing
my
right,
as one of my patients says, you swimming upstream, doc. When you swim upstream, they don't, and it's sad because you really appreciate how really gangsta our society is when you start to question the pillars of our thinking in the society, and it crosses all the different disciplines, particularly medicine, because medicine, believe it or not, is, well, it's like this. I had a good friend, he died. He was a good friend of Dick Gregory's. His name was James P. Carter.
Mm.
And James Carter was a professor, he was an MD at Tulane. And he was one of my mentors. And James told me years ago, he said, Fred, we got to go back to the caveman diet.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a book about alternative medicine, and it's called Racketeering in Medicine, The Suppression of Alternatives. And he was very close to many of the doctors that you'll read about over the last 50 years who've done some outstanding work in alternative medicine, and the hell they went through with the government or the establishment in the medical field. Matter of fact, one gentleman, I had dinner at his house in 1988 with Ray Evers. Ray Evers is the father of chelation therapy, and he was 75 back in 1988. And at the dinner was Robert Atkins. You heard the Atkins diet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was there. And I met Ray Evers' son on a shuttle bus from the Memphis airport to the Peabody Hotel in 1991, 3 years later, going to one of these meetings. And he told me he went to law school just to protect his father from the government.
Mm.
It's that serious because, I think what it is they've gotten comfortable with how they make money, and they don't want to change it.
Man, look, most systems don't want the system to change because they know you
the system
lose.
is about taking care of the system now.
Man, it's about taking care of the system. Now, what I learned is that you create your own.
Exactly. But that's what the process is trying to do here, showing people how to do the thing.
With your book.
Yeah.
With your book, it's more about exposing the book. Yeah. You need exposure at the highest. You need marketing at the highest, because what you have a system that you have created that works.
Right.
And because this work, you have put it in a book for people to be able to understand, know, and now utilize. Question is how do we get you in the right hands so that you can be seen? Because you already got the material. You already got 40 something years of medical being in a medical. No, is it 40 something years? Might be 50 something years in the medical system.
It's actually 45 years.
45 years of information being in medical and still doing the work.
Yeah.
And have people that can vouch that the work works.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's about getting you put in place where you ain't got to struggle, because guess what? People are now buying your book. people are now opening their ears, because you have a lot of people these days that believe in what you are talking about.
Right.
Maybe not back then,
Not
but
back then.
these days, there are people that will buy that book. There are people that see that the medical system will keep you on pills and medicine for the rest of your life, opposed to changing your diet and getting you healthier. And I would like to say God allowed you to write the book at the right time.
I think so.
Look, COVID happened, not just because COVID was happened, but because God needed you to sit down and do as your wife had told you for years.
Yeah.
Put that book together. Now that you have it, it's about time for us to figure out how, because you got a group of people that'll help you. Same way I met you, because somebody believed in your work, same way that I'm doing this interview with you about your book and about your knowledge. And because God has allowed people, thank God that that lady showed back up and was able to share that information.
Yeah.
You're willing to get the information out.
Yeah.
Now it's about how we can get you out.
I appreciate that.
Man, it is an honor. When I heard you speak and I heard you talk about your book, I said to myself, I need to interview him. Why? Because it is important and imperative that people like you can help make changes where some people, as you said about the doctors, it ain't that they don't mean well, they wasn't taught well.
Correct.
So they're doing what they know to do,
Right.
opposed to what you have learned to use your scientific methods to actually find out, assess, see. Now you got the actual data to prove that what you know, it works.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
because I don't want to hold you too long, I want you to share, what do you want the book to actually do other than heal people?
Well, the main thing I wanted to do is I tried to imply in my writing that my undergraduate degrees are in sociology and urban affairs. Again, because my major goal was to find out what's wrong with Black people. And I found out what's wrong with Black people is white supremacy and capitalism. That's the only thing wrong with us. But it's the same thing wrong with the whole world. So, traditionally, one of the most important people that I ever studied with, I wrote about in the book. I got a chapter on it called Chief Two Trees. He was a Cherokee Indian medicine man. I don't know if you read about that section in the book, but I studied with him in the 80s back in Old Fort, North Carolina. He ran a place called the Native American Studies Institute. And I spent 3 days with him, 3 of the most powerful days of my life, because he turned so much around in those 3 days. But one of the things, he told me many things, but one of the things he told me, he said, Fred, what I'm teaching you is the wisdom of our fathers that we forgot when we started relying on white man's medicine. Now, traditionally, people would pass down remedies and different folklore and that sort of thing. And that went on for centuries. That's how we learned. But there was a break in that, and I understood what happened. When the Great Migration, World War II, folks left the South trying to escape Jim Crow, moving north. My parents were part of that migration. Well, a lot of our folkways got left behind because grandma stayed back, was the children moved north. And another thing happened scientifically. Penicillin and prednisone were invented. Now, penicillin, I think, broke the cycle. And here's the reason why I did. I don't think people appreciate, and everybody knows about penicillin, but I don't think they realize how revolutionary penicillin was. Penicillin got rid of 2 diseases that mankind had been suffering from for centuries.
Syphilis
and gonorrhea. When they were able to get rid of that with a shot, people said, well, I ain't going to listen to grandma no more. I'm going to get that shot.
Listen, grandma couldn't figure out how to get rid of this stuff.
It went and got that shot, brother. So that broke the cycle. We stopped listening and remembering those old ways. We kind of poo-pooed them and put all our faith in modern science. Okay? But as Chief Tutri said, man, a lot of that stuff was stuff we needed to do and continue to do. In fact, the most important thing he taught me was to deworm myself on a regular basis. Now, that's something I hadn't, my mother never dewormed me. But guess what? Most of the childhood illnesses I had when I was a kid, asthma, eczema, acne, frequent colds, frequent stomach aches, that was all worms.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of getting me dewormed, she would take me to the local doctor who would give me a shot. Every time I went to that doctor, he gave me a shot. Didn't necessarily fix anything, but he gave me a shot because they think that's what you want, a shot. And I remember my mother would send me down south to visit her family in South Carolina during the summers. And Aunt Ella, who was the closest to the old ways, would give me different herbs to smoke. Believe it or not. She would wrap it up and say, "Here, smoke this." And I brought that stuff home. My mother threw that away. She said, "Oh, you ain't going to do something," because that's the old way.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to go back and pick up some of the old ways. As Chief Tutri says, the wisdom of our fathers, we forgot when we started relying on the white man's medicine. A lot of that stuff was very, very solid. So I've incorporated a lot of that into my practice, and I teach everyone, first thing they come in, I say, you got to deworm yourself. You got to get into the habit of thinking, I got to deworm now, and at least every 3 to 6 months, you do it again.
Yeah.
And people who do that live better.
I want to ask, if you will, give away a quick secret.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deworm?
Okay, so I deworm everyone, starting at 1-year-old to whatever age. So there's different strokes for different folks. Some people like capsules. Some people can't take capsules. They're too young. They got to have liquids. I have powders, liquids, capsules. I got different things for different folks. And I give everybody a basic 2-week, depending upon what their preferences are and their age level. So I have a design programs for everybody. You understand what I'm saying? And certain conditions, they have to do an 8-week cleanse first time. For instance, asthmatics, eczemas, and hepatitis, they go 8 weeks because as Chief Tutri taught me, you need to go through 2 cycles of the moon to clear that up.
What do you use?
What do I use? Oh, wow. Okay. I use one product I use is called Wormwood Combinations. Wormwood, black walnut, and cloves. Cloves, we know traditionally we would stick in the hand. Well, cloves kill the babies, the babies of the worms.
Mm.
So that's one product I use. Another one I use is grapefruit seed extract. Another one I use is called Luvos, which is tophaceous earth, which is really fine dirt. And you mix that in water, and it drives parasites crazy. Another one I use is digestive enzymes from a company called Standard Process, Zymex2 and Multizyme. So, like I said, I got different, and I got some liquids. I have one called Absinthium, which is a homeopathic, of wormwood combination. So, like I said, everybody's different. Some people are, Doc, I just want liquid. Doc, I just want capsules. Doc, so
get the book, and the information is in the book, right?
Yeah. Well, bottom line is, here's what I do, because like I said, when it comes to parasites, it should be really easy. It should be really easy, but it's not always, because what I found over the years is no matter what you put a person on, they may have some sort of issue with it one way or another. So it's best to tailor make what a person is most comfortable with. And once they get on track, they're good. But I'll tell you this, everyone on the planet needs to be deworming regular, especially that guy in the White House. That's probably his problem. Oh, yeah. Because it affects the way people think. Chief Tutri taught me a lot of times when people do stuff and you make you say, what were you thinking when you did that? They weren't thinking.
It was a parasite that was actually
I mean, some people's behavior make you want to say, what the hell? But
kind of like, and I learned this from watching, I guess you could say, the Animal Planet or something to that nature, how a parasite can live in a bug and run its mind. It takes it everywhere.
Hey, brother, that's exactly right. Matter of fact, there's a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. And that parasite first wants to get into a mouse. Once it gets into a mouse, it makes the mouse not afraid of cats. Now, what happens to mice that ain't scared of cats?
Get eaten up.
Well, now he gets into the cat. He gets into the cat's intestinal tract. The cat poops, and he gets in the kitty litter of a woman who's pregnant, and she somehow gets that into her system. It wants to get into the unborn baby. I mean, we're talking about a circuitous route. I mean, this, as Chief Two-Tree says, I asked him, I said, Chief, why do you give everybody something for worms? He said, because they all got them. I said, Chief, why do you say they all got them? He said, because this is their planet. We're visiting.
Mm-hmm. We're aliens to their planet.
That's right. This is their planet. And, you know, it's interesting. Since he told me that, I've been very keen to listen to people who explorers. And I heard a show on public radio a few years ago where this guy was an oceanographer, and he had been at the bottom of every ocean in the world. And the interviewer asked him, said, what's the most interesting thing you found at the bottom of the ocean?
Parasite.
He said, worms.
Mm-hmm.
I said, wow. Now, check this out. 60 Minutes. I'm a 60 Minutes fan. 60 Minutes did a show about 5-6 years ago on South African mines, gold mines. Now, you know, South African gold mines are the deepest man-made mines in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're 3.5 miles deep. So some biologists wanted to know if there was life down there. So they went down there and looked. And they found worms. Think about that, man.
And this body is made from the same thing as the earth.
Exactly. And and Chief Two-Tree said, this is their planet.
What do you think is in this body until you extract it out?
And so people come to me, the first question most people say, where I get worms from, Doc? My response is, where you don't get them from.
The foods you eat.
Go ahead.
A lot of people speak about pork, but they don't realize that beef have worms. The chicken have worms.
Hey brother, look here, man. Parasites get parasites.
Hmm.
Do you realize malaria is a parasite of another parasite?
Good God.
I got malaria when I went to Ghana in 1973. That was an experience. I talk about that in the book. But that was a parasite that parasitized another parasite, a mosquito. So this parasitic way of life, brother, is a very, very... See, here's the thing. Let me say this thing to you if I forget. I had my first biology class I took in med school, in college, when I first decided to go to med school back in 74. At the end of the class, this professor was a visiting professor, put on the chalkboard, he said, I want you to understand this concept. He put 2 pluses, plus, plus, then he put minus, minus, then he put plus, minus. He said, now, plus, plus, that's an example of 2 organisms that live happily together, each benefiting the other. Happy marriage, fair exchange at the drugstore.
Everything.
You know, okay, positive, positive. Negative, negative is a competition thing where they're in a fight and you can't tell who's winning. They're beating up each other.
And then negative, positive.
Positive, negative parasitism. Now think about that. Many, many, many interactions between organisms is positive, negative. One is benefiting, the other is not. And there's all kind of parasites. 2-legged parasites, 4-legged, all kind of parasites. But it's a way of life. On this planet, parasitism is a very, very prominent, common way of life. So that was a very powerful lesson for me.
So before we...
Two-Trees.
Thank him.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he's still here. I hope he is, but...
He passed on. He passed on.
He passed forward great information. So
there you go.
All praises to God for allowing you to come in contact with him.
Exactly.
To pass forward the information that was from back then till now.
He told me, he said, Fred, I've taught many people this information, but they go home and sit on it. So I'm teaching you because you won't do that. I said, you're right, Chief. I'll go share it.
You used it, but now you've put it in a book.
Absolutely.
So before we go, 2 things I need from you. 1, give me a word of wisdom.
Okay.
And then last, tell everybody where they can purchase your book at.
Okay, that's a great question. Here's my word of wisdom. Every person that comes to see me, regardless of their circumstance, is an onion. And you know what you do with onions?
Peel the layer off.
Everybody has peelings. And if you peel them properly, you get down to the essence, and in the essence is enough life force to get better. You just get the peelings out of the way. And that's been the key to my success in practice. And I've learned that everybody's an onion. And so therefore, everybody can get better. Can they all get cured? Not necessarily. But theoretically, I can improve everybody's lot. I just know how to peel them. Just peel the onion. And we have a lot of common peels. One is parasites. The others are hormones. In fact, the people who died of COVID actually died of low thyroid. And I address everybody's thyroid situation because low thyroid is actually the pandemic. Most people suffer from low thyroid. But anyway, so that's kind of how you look at human beings and human beings' troubles. And how you get the book, 2 ways you can get the book right now. You can get it on Amazon, but I prefer you get it from me because I don't have to share with Amazon.
And you can get a sign.
Yeah. And that you just have to call my office number 610-649-4325. Again, that's 610-649-4325. And just ask for a copy of the book and they'll take care of you.
Thank you once again for your
thanks for having me.
experience, your journey, and being everything that God has allowed you to be. Thank you for writing the book. Tell your wife, personally, Carlos Walker said, thank you for helping, for consistently staying in your ear about the book.
I appreciate that.
And I want you to know that I appreciate you because there's our ancestors in this country at one point couldn't write nor read.
That's right.
However, what we have been able to do over the last 400 years, God has allowed us, well, over the last, just say, 100 and something years, God has allowed us to be able to read, write at exponential levels.
Correct.
And there are more readers and writers that have ever been in America in our color now because our ancestors learned, and here we are doing the same. Thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you. And I'll be talking to you soon about some other things.
All right. My name is Carlos Walker. This is Art and Hustle, Black Authors Matter. And this is Dr. Frederick Douglass Burton. Peace and blessings.